Good afternoon, Tuscaloosa, Internet World, West Alabama, wherever you're watching us on the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral and BamaCentral.com. Hope you guys are having a wonderful day. I am, of course, Joe Gaither, breaking news. And you are the listener, the viewer, and we appreciate you guys watching us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter as well. You can find me at Joe Gaither6, and you can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or on Amazon. Make sure you subscribe, rate, and review the show. Wherever you like your podcast, you can always chime in on the show. You get in with your comments, questions, queries, and complaints at Joe Gaither6 on Facebook or Twitter or YouTube as well. We'll post them up on the show and invite you to be a part of it. We're going to have a lot of fun. It's a Monday. I hope you guys are having a fun Monday. I know we should be getting ready. I should be in Houston. I should have done this show 5 hours ago from a hotel room in Houston. But alas, I am back in West Alabama. We are going to watch the College Football National Championship game tonight. Alabama not participating in it. Broken hearts all over the place, but we move on. Life moves on. What are we going to do today? We're going to talk about the transfer portal. We're going to talk about the College Football Championship game. We're going to talk about Alabama and Vanderbilt from the weekend. We're going to talk about Jace McClellan a little bit, NFL draft. We're going to do all kinds of things. So we invite you guys to jump in and join us. Tell a friend about the program, and let's get this bad boy started. All right, I want to start with the transfer portal because it is still going. Alabama's transfer portal window ended on Saturday, but you're seeing news come through on Sunday and Monday as paperwork has really been filed, basically. As paperwork has been filed and been discovered and been reported. Over the weekend, Alabama saw Jake Pope and Kendrick Blackshire both enter the transfer portal. They put their names down on Saturday, and they reported Jake Pope yesterday and Kendrick Blackshire today. And both guys, are being talked about as losses, but I don't really feel like they're huge losses for the Alabama Crimson Tide when you take a big look at really the defensive backfield and the inside linebacker room are still loaded, even with the loss of Jake Pope and Kendrick Blackshire, as we usually do, as we always do, really. From my perspective, anybody leaving Alabama, we wish them well. We hope they have a great career wherever they go. UAB, Auburn, Florida State, Ohio State, I don't care. Go make the best of your of the rest of your college career. Thanks for your time here in Tuscaloosa. It was a pleasure to cover you while you were here, Jake Pope and Kendrick Blackshire. But I don't think they're going to be two huge losses for the Alabama Crimson Tide. As it stands now, you've got 18 guys that entered the transfer portal. I don't think you're going to hear many more. There might be one more trickle in before the end of the day, but I don't really think so. I think you're pretty much set on these 18 guys. On the Friday program, we went through the first 16 of them and basically talked about who the big losses were. I think there's only going to be, oh, what did you just do? Unplug my light, Miss Dog? Come on now. We got to have that light. Ha, sorry about that. My dog unplugging the light below me. No, but we talked about the 16 guys who transferred out or who already entered their name on the transfer portal on the Friday program. You can listen to that on all the platforms we already outlined at the beginning of the show. Jake Pope, Kendrick Blackshire. I mean, of course, from a selfish standpoint, you want to see everybody stay and develop at the capstone and stay and really, find their place. I don't know that Jake Pope would have cracked the starting lineup. I don't know that Kendrick Blackshire. I'm pretty confident that Kendrick Blackshire wouldn't have cracked the starting lineup as he only has one more year of eligibility. And next year, you guys all know Jahad Campbell and Deontay Lawson are both going to be manning the inside linebacker position. You've heard a lot about Sean Murphy. You kicked Jeremiah Alexander from the outside to the inside in the middle of the year this year. I think the inside linebacker room is going to be plenty loaded. And shoot, Justin Jefferson as well. Justin Jefferson, the JUCO transfer from Mississippi, he was supposed to get on the field and be one of the fastest players on Alabama's defense. Didn't really work out for him this year, but still in the system. Going to be playing inside linebacker, maybe another year in the system. We'll see him get more experience and more playing time. But I don't want to spend a whole lot of time talking about Kendrick Blackshire and Jake Pope because I don't know that they're going to be two huge losses for Alabama. Obviously, wish them well. Hope they do well. I want to talk about three guys. I want to talk about three guys who have gone in the transfer portal and already announced their decisions. Let's first start with Seth McLaughlin. Seth McLaughlin, you guys all watched the game last Monday. You all watched it just like I did. You saw the bad snaps. You saw the bad snaps against Ole Miss on the goal line. You saw the bad snap against Auburn on the goal line. Bad snaps were a plague throughout the season. But I do want you to take notice that Ohio State, one of the blue bloods of college football, was one of the programs that reached out to Seth McLaughlin. Seth McLaughlin, despite the snapping issues, and we talked about on ad nauseum last week, everything that Coach Saban and everything that Tommy Rees could have done to mitigate the snapping issues. We talked about the fact that there really wasn't very many center options behind Seth McLaughlin, but what they should have done was gone on different had a different system for handling the snap. But they didn't, and that's in the past. But what I want you to realize is Seth McLaughlin is still a quality player. He's a very quality player. He was after by Ohio State, by Texas A&M, and by Ole Miss. And I'm sure, okay, you're all Alabama fans. You're not going to compare yourself to Ole Miss and Texas A&M, but you ought to compare yourself to Ohio State. They're in the same class as Alabama. It's the 7 blue bloods of the class, leading college football. Ohio State, Alabama, 2 of the 7. And for one of the blue bloods to reach out to Seth McLaughlin and say, hey, man, I know you just had a tough time at Alabama, but you are still a quality player. We want you here to play your last year. I think it should just speak to the kind of player that Seth is. One-time national champion, 2020, 3-time SEC champion. I mean, he started against Jordan Davis in the SEC championship game. What is that, 2021? And basically nullified him. Yes, the snaps were a major issue, and it should speak volumes for this Alabama offense and for Jalen Milroe to overcome the snapping issue and to get to the college football playoffs, to win the SEC championship and to get to the college football playoffs. But we want to congratulate and really acknowledge and point out that Seth McLaughlin is still a quality player. Is it going to be a major loss for Alabama? I don't necessarily think so. We went over that on Friday. I think you're going to be bringing in a guy like Rock Montgomery, a guy like my man Joe Ionata, going to be probably maybe moving into that center position. You're going to see James Brockermeyer get his chance. I know you lost Terrence Ferguson to the transfer portal, but there will be bodies, there will be players, there will be guys who can man the center position. Come on, it's Alabama. So, is it sad to see Seth go? No, but is it? But you don't want to sit here and pray on his downfall. You need to realize that he's still a quality player. And if Ohio State said, "Hey, man, we want you, come sign," that should tell you something. I mean, whether you respect Ohio State or not, come on, they are one of the top 4 or 5 programs in the country year in and year out. And for one of them to see Seth McLaughlin in the portal and say, "Ooh, that's my guy," I think that should speak volumes and let us know what kind of player that he really is. I think a lot of people got caught up in the snapping issues. And yes, huge issue, hard to ignore, hard to overlook. But he is still a quality player. I think he helped this Alabama offensive line tremendously this year in setting the protections. I think he's helped the Alabama offensive line, not only this year, but like the last 3 years, in setting the protections and really keeping everyone on the same page. Was he the most athletically gifted? No, he wasn't, but he was a grinder and he worked hard, and I think he put a lot of time into his craft. I read about Seth McLaughlin talking to Coach Saban and putting his name in the transfer portal and basically how hard that was for him. I think this Alabama program meant a lot to him, and I don't really think that he wanted to leave from my own perspective. But I think that what happened last Monday kind of made him feel like he had no choice. From the Alabama fan base perspective, and that's tough to see. That's tough for me to feel. That's tough for me to kind of digest. But I think that probably Seth, he made the best decision for himself. All right, let's talk about 2 more guys who have announced their decisions. Earl Little Jr. and Malik Benson. Malik Benson, you all know that I loved him all through the summer, and we've talked about it a couple of different times, how I wasn't necessarily right on his production this year. Malik Benson and Earl Little Jr. are going to Florida State. Both of those guys announcing over the weekend that they're going to head to Tallahassee. Now, for Earl Little Jr., this is not a surprise. He's going to Florida State to play, I think, for Pat Surtain Sr., for his old cornerbacks coach, and that's going to be a good spot for him. He's going to get playing time. We talked about it on Friday about it being kind of a loss for Alabama. I do think it's a loss for Alabama. Do I think losing Malik Benson is a loss? A little, but not heavily. I think maybe I overrated him in my own mind heading into the season, and what we saw this year was maybe not a great blocker, not and an average route runner, and really struggled in making contested catches. But it's interesting to me. The Florida State perspective. I listen. I hear fans all the time. I just hear. I read stuff. I listen to fans. I'm on Twitter all day. You've got all the Florida State fans over the last 3 or 4 weeks. Oh, Alabama didn't deserve to be there. We deserve to be there. Look, were 5 teams that deserved to be there. But then you turned around and saw Alabama and Texas both lose their college football semifinal games. Oh, see, it proved y'all didn't deserve to be there. Y'all stink. Yada, yada, yada. You barely beat Auburn. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. But then you're going to go out and rate our transfer portal players. You're going to go out and take Earl Little Jr. and Malik Benson. I thought they stink. I thought they weren't very good. I thought they were part of a bad football team. Come on, how do we reconcile those two thoughts? I think that Royal Williams might be on a Florida State path, and I think that Kendrick Blackshire might be on a Florida State path. How interesting will it be in 2025 when Alabama heads to Jacksonville? If there are a handful, depending on how much eligibility kind of carries over, but if there are a handful of former Alabama football players playing for Florida State. I just think it's interesting. I do think Mike Norvell is a very good coach. You saw last year Mike Norvell really, really go after it in the transfer portal with Keon Coleman and several others. Obviously, got Jordan Travis out of the portal as well. This year, he's got DJ Uiagalelei. It seems like that's just his method to I'm gonna build this team year in and year out, but via the transfer portal, and that's certainly a viable strategy. Certainly a viable strategy. But does that strategy also make it more likely or more conducive for these Florida State guys at the end of the year, this past year, to opt out of their bowl games, to hit the transfer portal again, to say we're going to the NFL and opt out of their bowl games? I think so. I wonder, look, when you build your program through the transfer portal, you build 1 year, you build year in and year out. I'm not going to say it's indicative or I'm not going to say that it creates a weak culture, but I think it's very difficult to create a strong culture when you've got to teach guys every single year what your standards are, what your program is like, what you require, that you require everybody to be on time for meetings, that you require everybody to give 100%, that you require everybody, whatever you require for your own program. I think it's harder to teach when you have guys coming in and year out and year in and year out. You see what Kirby Smart, you see what Nick Saban has done, you see what some of these programs, Michigan as well, has supplemented their roster via the transfer portal. They have recruited at a very, very high level, but when they see that they have a hole, they go out like Michigan. Josiah Stewart. Josiah Stewart was a transfer portal player. He was the one who blew up J.C. Latham on the last play. Does that mean that they have bad culture? No, I think that they needed an edge rusher, and Josiah Stewart saw a good fit. So I wonder, this period of time is very interesting for me because you've seen guys go into the transfer portal. You've seen a lot of guys make announcements, this, that, and the other. Look, we're all in the middle of coaching searches and stuff, but it's very interesting to me to see how coaches construct their roster, how coaches go about roster management. And look, there's no right way or wrong way. Absolutely. I mean, Florida State, you went undefeated doing it. You went undefeated and you had some bad luck. You had some bad luck in a bad system, in a bad 4-team system. Florida State absolutely earned their right to be in the playoff. Alabama did as well. I think you had 5 teams that earned 4 places. Looking forward to seeing next season when it becomes a little more clear. But for Florida State, Mike Norvell to take Malik Benson and to take Earl Little Jr., look, those are 2 good gets for Florida State. You're leaving. Keon Coleman's leaving. I think they're losing both their big-time receivers. You got a big-time quarterback, DJ Uiagalelei. You're going to get the football. I think both those guys are good gets for Florida State. Earl Little Jr. Let's keep going with him real quick because his father went out on Twitter this past weekend and basically dropped a handful of Earl Little Jr.'s highlights. Do they count as highlights when they happen in practice? That's my question. Do they count as highlights when they happen in practice, or does it have to be in a game to count as a highlight? I think it's very interesting, very unique. What are you chewing on? Hey, what are you chewing on? Dadgum dog. I think it's very interesting. Very, Earl Little Jr. is a good player. He's going to be a good player for Florida State. But his father coming out on Twitter this past weekend, dropping a bunch of highlights and saying, I don't know why Earl Little wasn't playing. Well, buddy, who do you want him to play over? Who do you want him to play over? Do you want him to play over Malachi Moore? Do you want him to play over Jalen Key? Do you want him to play over Trey Amos? Do you want him to play over Kool-Aid or Terrion Arnold, 2 first-round draft picks? I'm sorry. You're probably using Earl Little in the star. You're probably using him right there as that third corner. And yeah, Alabama had some different guys play that position throughout the year. You had Terrion play it. You had Malachi Moore play it. You had Caleb Downs play it. All 3 of them kind of took part in playing it. And maybe, I guess, it goes back even further. Maybe it goes back into the summer. If you don't take Jalen Key, then does Earl Little Jr. still stay on the roster? Earl Little Jr., the highlights that his father put out on X are fine. They're good. They're impressive. They are. But they're in practice. And look, Alabama practices are very intense. Absolutely they are. And you know that the guys are working good reps and trying very hard because they're all trying to get on the field. But look, you're not always going up against the ones. Sometimes you're going up against little white walk-ons like myself, average Andy athletes, well, above average Andy athletes if you're walking on at the University of Alabama. But look, what does your practice tape really show? What does your practice tape really mean? Look, I am certainly glad that you went to Florida, that you're going to Florida State, and that it's going to work out for you. You're going from one big program to another. Your scholarship, you're staying on scholarship. You're probably going to pick up a little NIL. You're going to find some playing time at Florida State, and good luck to you. Absolutely good luck to you. But what gain? I'm sorry, and maybe this is a miscommunication between the father and son. Maybe it's the father feeling bad. You look, fathers are protective. Fathers want the best for their children, sons or daughters. I mean, if you're a quality father, if you have a heartbeat as a father, you want the best for your child. And so maybe maybe Earl Little Sr. said, you know what, I just want to defend my son and say he should have been playing. Look, he's not afraid of competition, and here's his highlights. Maybe he did this without Earl Little Jr.'s knowledge. I don't know that. But I don't think it's a good look. I don't think it's a great look to say, I don't know why my son didn't play. Look at all these practice highlights. Boom. Like, it's already worked out for you. It's already like this is like not reopening a wound, but it's like poking the bear. It's like poking basically when you leave an organization, as Earl Little Jr. has done now, leaving the Alabama Crimson Tide and going to Florida State. Look, people leave organizations all the time. You change jobs all the time. You change churches, you change clubs, you change jobs, you change cities, whatever the case may be. You change all the time, and then that's part of life. But shouldn't you do your best to kind of make sure when you leave, all parties are doing? And it sounded like it was. And granted, I'm sure that Coach Saban doesn't have a care in the world that his father put out a tweet that said my son should have been playing. I'm sure that doesn't bother him one bit. But it just doesn't really look great. It doesn't really look great for the son to say, yeah, I should have been playing. What are you rubbing your nose? Are you rubbing our nose in T-Rob's face that T-Rob was playing the wrong players, that Nick Saban was playing the wrong players? Are you trying to stir up that the defense would have been better with Earl Little Jr. over Malachi Moore or over Jalen Key? Maybe. But we don't know that. The season's over. You've gone to the transfer portal. You've gotten your next scholarship. You're at Florida State. It's fine. Just say, you know what? Whatever you want to do. But there's no reason to put out your practice tape at your previous school and say, I don't know why I didn't play. Well, maybe why you didn't play is not necessarily visible on tape. I don't have a clue about anything off the field with Earl Little Jr. Were you on time to meetings? Were you on time to workouts? Were your grades good? Did you know the coverages? How well were you in communication? How much film study did you do? Could Coach Saban trust you? I mean, the practice highlights that were put out on Twitter are a minuscule part of the formula to determine who plays. Sure, you definitely take the film into consideration, but it's not everything. And for the father to basically put out several highlights, they look good. For the father to put out several highlights, I just don't think it's a very good look. And so I do absolutely wish Earl Jr. very, very good luck. Absolutely. Hope everything works out for you. But I don't understand. I don't understand kind of rubbing your nose in it a little bit. On the same vein, and this one goes to the Alabama fans, but let's stay in social media. I'm done with the transfer portal stuff a little bit on this topic. This next topic is more transfer portal or NFL draft or super senior year for Jace McClellan. Well, Jace McClellan has not made his announcement yet, but there was Alabama drama over the weekend when it comes to social media involving Jace McClellan. There's been rumors that Jace is going to go in the transfer portal. Now, that hasn't been confirmed. We don't know that. His name hasn't come out. I don't have access to the transfer portal. I have to utilize or rely on other reporters' reports. And I appreciate guys like Matt Zenitz putting things out there and keeping up. Chris Hummer putting things out there, keeping up with the transfer portal. Jace hasn't made any announcement. He doesn't really have to because he has an extra COVID year. He can come back to the capstone. He can go to the transfer portal, and if he put his name in the spring, or excuse me, on Saturday, or if he chooses to go into the transfer portal after spring, he's going to have the second transfer portal window, right? So you got those two windows. Or you can go into the NFL draft. I'm pretty sure the deadline for the NFL draft is next Monday. I'm pretty sure the guys get a week after the college football playoff national championship game to decide. So I think it's next Monday but actually he's a senior, so he doesn't have to. There's no early declaration for him, so he doesn't have to put out anything. What I want to talk about is Jace's mother. Jace's mother, Mia McClellan. If you're not familiar with what a space is, basically think of it as a chat room, and that's what happens on Twitter or on X. And Miss McClellan was in a space, in a chat room, talking about her son and what he did this year, just kind of his options. And she said, Coach Saban met with all the draft-eligible players and told Jace and Roydell Williams that if they wanted to come back to Alabama for their super senior years, that they would be welcome to. Nothing innocuous there. Nothing strange there. Okay, she also revealed that Jace played with damn near a broke foot this year. Those two comments are what I want to talk about real quick. Okay, the damn near played on a broke foot comment. Absolutely everything that I heard around the SEC championship game. When Jace McClellan missed the SEC championship game the week earlier, we're hearing things. Look, I had seen Jace McClellan in a walking boot most of the year in the facility. Every time I went to the facility, I didn't pass him every single day, but I pass him every fifth day, every seventh day, something like that. So not frequent, but he was wearing a walking boot. That's the point. Wearing a walking boot the whole year and missed the Georgia game. And basically when it was around the Georgia game, is he going to play? Is he not? What I was hearing was, Jace has a stress fracture. Jace has a stress fracture. If he sits out the Georgia game, he might he might have enough rest to play in the college football playoffs and might be active. What I want you guys to realize, and this goes back to our conversation with Seth McLaughlin. And it goes to our conversation with any Alabama player who doesn't perform the way you think he should. These guys put their heart into this program. These guys put their blood and put their bones on the line for this program. And while the result last Monday wasn't what you guys wanted, I'm sure I understand that. Disappointment is a part of life, and you are absolutely entitled to be disappointed 1,000%. You can be disappointed, you can be sad, you can be mad, but here's the thing. Jace McClellan playing on a broke foot, Seth McLaughlin with his injuries that he was carrying through these guys are going to spend the next couple of weeks recovering from the season. And myself, I wake up every morning, I barely sweat. I might work out. Like the work, the time, the energy that they give to this program, I think the Alabama fan, the average Alabama fan, needs to be a little more appreciative. Yeah, is 12-2 not what you wanted? Did you want a national championship? Of course, I understand the championship or bust mindset, but there's only going to be one team that wins it all in the end. Tonight, it's either going to be Washington or Michigan. It's only going to be one team that wins it all. Does that make the losing team tonight's season a failure? Absolutely not. The losing team tonight's season is still a conference champion and made it to the last game of the year. Do you think that 2021 was a failure, beating Georgia in the SEC championship and then losing to them in the title game? No, it wasn't. I don't really agree with failure of a season, success of a season. I really think that the guys give their all, and nobody wants to win more than they do. And so all of this kind of goes into back to Ms. McClellan's topic of, Roydell and Jace were both invited to come back. You had people on the X machine calling her a liar. On the Twitter machine, calling her a liar, saying, no, your son's pushed out. Roydell's pushed out. Roydell's pushed to the transfer portal. And I'm not going to deny that does happen sometimes. It does. But why would you call the mother of the player who's letting you know information that she doesn't need to let you know? She doesn't have to tell you about her son in the meeting that they had with Coach Saban. But she's letting you know. How are you going to call him a liar? How are you going to sit there and call her a liar and say, no, your son stinks. We wanted him. We want him gone. We want to make – look, Justice Haynes, Jam Miller, they're going to be great running backs. Richard Young, going to be a lot of fun. Going to be a lot of fun to have those guys in the backfield. But you're making a fool of yourself calling these players' parents liars when they're letting you know what's happening in the program. So I think that I would encourage you to try to find a little bit more appreciation. I mean, look, if the year was a failure – fourth and 31 will live forever. Will you remember it, or will every time you think about 4th and 31, will you think, well, damn it, that team failed? The second half comeback against Tennessee will be epic for a long time. The Jahad Campbell scoop and score will be epic for a long time. Does that just erase from your memory because the team didn't win a national championship? No, that was a rocking day in Bryant-Denny Stadium. Awesome day. The SEC title. That shine on those rings will shine forever. Do they have to give them back because they didn't win a championship? Do they have to lock them away and never look at them because they didn't win a national title? No. So I just think that the average Alabama fan you should have a little more appreciation for the work that these guys kind of put into the program. All right, so let's keep moving on. I want to talk about recruiting. Actually, I want to highlight Wendell's comment before I move on. This season, Wendell Hare on Facebook chimes in. I love you watching, Wendell. Thank you so much every day watching. This season was brutal for Bama players, physically and mentally. I'm proud of these guys for how they came together, despite my opinion on how the players played. And Wendell's absolutely entitled to be disappointed with some of the mistakes. Of course. Or do we want bad snaps? Hell no. No. Are we happy about that? No, we're not happy about bad snaps. We're not happy about miscommunications along the offensive line that create sacks for Jalen Milroe. Like, you can criticize play. You can say this needs to get better. This aspect of the play needs to get better. But these guys are working their tails off. These guys give it their all. And so at the end of the day, the only response is, good job, Roll Tide. Thanks for playing, guys. Let's keep moving on the program, and I want to talk about recruiting because Alabama got 2 big wins on Saturday. Yeah, Alabama football didn't play, but there was the Army All-American game, Under Armour All-American game, the East-West All-American game happened on Saturday, and the Crimson Tide had 2 guys that they already had signed. They signed on the early signing window, very weird, but they held their decisions. Zay Mincy and Daniel Hill both held their decisions until, I guess it was for NBC. NBC's got to have these commitment moments during these games. So I'm sure that NBC approached these guys and said, hey, will you hold your announcement until the game? I would blame it on the TV producers more than the kids, to be honest with you. But both guys, Daniel Hill and Zay Mincy, you can read about them on BamaCentral.com. We've got them right there in our recruiting section, top middle section. Both guys announcing they're coming to the capstone, and both guys I think are fairly good gets for Alabama. Zay Mincy in particular. Zay Mincy, 6'3" defensive back that runs. Oh my gosh. I know a lot of people had a lot of high hopes for Kyrie Jackson. I had a lot of high hopes for Kyrie Jackson, the JUCO transfer that played here a little bit, got burned kind of in the national title game, and ended up out at Oregon. But you love the measurables. Kyrie Jackson, similar measurables as Zay Mincy, but you're not going to get him as a JUCO player. You're going to get him as a true freshman. And so Zay Mincy out of Florida, you win his commitment or his letter of intent. He signed already. He signed it in December. So he's in the class. Same with Daniel Hill. But you get his signature over Miami, Florida State, and Florida. So big time get. All the big Florida schools were after him. And he decides to come and enroll with Crimson Tide. Said that it was about family. It was about fit. And he felt that this was the best place that he can be developed. All right, awesome. You get another long defensive back. Second thing, Daniel Hill. Look, we've talked about Daniel Hill a couple times on the program before. Daniel Hill, goodness gracious, is unlike any running back that we have in the current room. 5'11", right at 6 foot, 5'10", 240. 240 pounds. So he's already the biggest running back that Alabama has in its room. And he's a true freshman. The man is a tank. He's a tank. And Daniel Hill, he kind of played the recruiting game a good bit this year. And look, if I'm a high school senior, I'm sorry, I have a little bit of a feeling myself aspect to as well. If I'm a high school senior and I get to take a bunch of trips and I get to enjoy my recruitment, I probably would too. But as I said, I'm an average Andy athlete. I didn't get to go on recruiting visits. This wasn't a world that I was exposed to from the athlete side. Daniel Hill did nothing wrong. Daniel Hill went to South Carolina, went to Mississippi State, went to Tennessee, went to Alabama a bunch of times. He just enjoyed his recruitment. There's nothing wrong with that. Daniel Hill ends up signing with Alabama. His father, former Mississippi State defensive lineman. I think for some period of time, Daniel Hill wanted to go to South Carolina, but his parents wanted to keep him close to home. I think that's what kept Mississippi State in it. But I think that maybe there was a compromise, maybe a family compromise. Maybe you don't go to South Carolina, but would you consider Alabama a little closer to home, better development, and we can see you play a little bit more? Daniel Hill is going to be a lot of fun to watch because Daniel Hill, like I said, it's going to be much different than any running back that we have in our room right now. It's going to be interesting to see how Tommy Rees works with him, how Tommy Rees utilizes him. I think that it's going to be really fun to have a power back in the program. When was the last power back that you had? I mean, Najee was not a true power. I mean, he had power, but he wasn't like that. Wasn't like his main deal. Was it Eddie Lacy? Golly, the last time you had a hammer that would just, I mean, Derrick Henry, but Derrick Henry is more of a runner on the outside, out in the field and run, I mean, right up the A gap, ISO, give it to your linebacker all day long. I mean, Derrick did that for sure, and Bo Scarborough did that for sure too. But I think both those guys were much better off the edges. Both those guys were much better off tackle. Daniel Hill might be a little bruiser on the inside. It's going to be a fun running back for Alabama to utilize over the next couple of years. You've got the number 2 recruiting class. You didn't overcome Georgia's number 1 ranking with these two guys' signatures, but you did close their gap. We all know the recruiting rankings don't matter, and we will re-rank them or re-evaluate them in 3 or 4 years once we see who transferred out, who developed well, and who went to the NFL. But look, you end up with a number 2 recruiting class. You're doing pretty well. I expect in 1 month and 1 day, February 9th, to receive some great news. Ryan Williams signing his letter of intent and making the 2024 class even better. All right, so let's keep going today. I appreciate everybody watching us on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter. You've been listening to us on Apple Podcasts, on Amazon, and on Spotify. This is the Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral and BamaCentral.com. You can follow me at Joe Gaither6 on all the social media machines. Subscribe, rate, and review the program wherever you are watching or listening, and tell a friend about the show. Let's talk about tonight's college football playoff game. We all know, look, Michigan and Washington are in the finals. Michigan, Washington are in the finals tonight. Look, as I don't spell anything correctly, Michigan and Washington are, yeah, perfect. At 6:30. 6:30 on ESPN. You're going to be able to watch that this evening. Or is it, ABC or ESPN? Right there on Big Boy TV. I love how my internet is failing me bigly right here. But yeah, so 6:30. I don't know what's going to happen. I've been thinking about it for the last handful of days, really since Alabama lost. Do I want to pick Michigan? Do I want to pick Washington? 6:30 on ESPN. Michigan is a 5.5 point favorite. Over under is 55.5. Look, we've talked about it last 3 weeks when we played Michigan. Jalen Milroe was the best quarterback that Michigan has faced. They made Jalen Milroe look fairly pedestrian. We'll say that. Fairly pedestrian. He had a couple of good throws, but that was about it. I contend that more so Michigan dominated Alabama's offensive line more so than Jalen Milroe and shut down the receivers on the outside. But still, Jalen Milroe is a part of that equation. Not a good performance in the Rose Bowl. Michael Penix is better than Jalen Milroe. I mean, sure. I mean, you might argue with me, but you're wrong. Michael Penix is a better quarterback than Jalen Milroe. He's going to end up being a first-round draft pick. He was a Heisman finalist. Had a great year at Washington. So Michael Penix is now going to be the best quarterback that Michigan has faced. I think Michigan's going to win tonight. Because I think that their defensive front, look, Washington's offensive line, Joe Moore winning offensive line. Can they protect Michael Penix? What will Jesse Minter do up front to confuse the Joe Moore winning offensive line? Will they be able to put pressure on Michael Penix, move him off his spot? If they are, I think it could be a long day for Washington. Not long as in a blowout, but a long day as in pulling teeth, as in, we're not used to playing a defense that's this tough. Michigan's defense is for real. One thing that Michigan did against Alabama that I think they're going to do again is they committed to staying behind or staying in front of the Alabama receivers. They didn't let any of the Alabama receivers get behind them the whole night. You had a couple of bomb shots to Kendrick Law, to Jermaine Burton, but every single time the Michigan DBs were step for step. They lined up 15 yards off the line. They lined up 20 yards off the line to give plenty of cushion. They were not going to get beat over the top. And I think they're going to stick to that same strategy tonight in the College Football National Championship game against Washington. Look, I know Roma Dunes is a very, very good wide receiver. I know Washington has a lot of weapons, but I think the Michigan defensive backfield will keep everything in front of it and will make Michael Penix nickel and dime him while they try to go out there and get after him and sack him, much like they did against Alabama. If they're successful in doing that, then on the flip side, I think that their grinded out style might be able to anaconda a victory for Michigan. I'm going to take Michigan tonight, and I'm going to take Michigan at 20. Oh, this is an on-the-spot pick. I'm taking Michigan at 26, 20. Oh, yeah, I'm taking them at 27, 27-21. That's what I'm taking them at, 27-21. So I'll take Michigan to win and cover that 5.5. Jim Harbaugh wins the national championship and says sayonara, goes into the NFL. And, it was a great college football season. That's going to wrap it up for tonight. We'll move on. That's kind of my thoughts for the national championship game. Like I said, I watched a lot of Michigan. I didn't watch a ton of Washington this year because they never intersected with Alabama's schedule. I watched them on highlights. I'm just interested to see how the Michigan defense, I'm fascinated to see how Jesse Minter is going to attack this great quarterback tonight. So I think that if they're able to get after him, if they're able to keep Roma Dunes in front of them, then it's going to be a successful night, and everybody will be singing Hail to the Victors by the end of the night. I got two more topics I want to talk. Oh, shoot. I didn't even talk about Alabama and Vanderbilt. I got three more topics I want to talk about. I guess we should go into Alabama and Vanderbilt first before we hit these two ancillary NFL topics that don't have anything to do with Alabama at all. Okay, so look, Alabama and Vanderbilt over the weekend. SEC opener in Vanderbilt. You guys all know the history of Alabama in Memorial Gymnasium. It's not been very good. But Nate Oates is now undefeated. 4-0 now? 4-0 up in Memorial. Alabama wins 78-75. But what an ugly game. I'm sorry. What a horrific game. What are you doing? Move. Well, I wanted to be impressed. I wanted to be happy with it, but I'm just not. I'm just not pleased from a fan perspective, from an analyst perspective. I'm not really pleased with this basketball team. Look, they're the best offense in the country analytically. They can score with anyone. but they just go in absolute dum-dum mode on defense, or they'll go into absolute dum-dum mode just through spurts of the game, for several spurts of the game. Middle eight. Oh my gosh, the middle eight in the last four were horrid. Alabama takes an 18-point lead, and I'm feeling like, oh, great, I can, kind of half pay attention to the rest of this game because Alabama's going to blow them out. But no, Vanderbilt bites back into the game. Okay, into the half, close half. All right. Then Alabama restretches it. Alabama's got an 11-point lead with 3.5 minutes to go. And look, I'm not a gambler, but I think the line was at 14. You're playing right at the line at 11. You get a foul here, a foul there. But no, Alabama went into just I've never played basketball in my life mode, and Vanderbilt closed the last 3 minutes, putting Alabama on the line, forcing turnovers and scoring. It ended up being a 3-point game. Ended up making me sweat. Ended up making me nervous. Ended up making me feel some feels I didn't want to feel at the end of the game. And Coach Oates talking about, we got to find the closing. We got to find the closing lineup. My man's, you're 9-5 now. It's 14 games in. We don't know the closing lineup yet. I know. Context here, Joe. Nuance here. A lot of new players. Trent Nelson, Estrada, all the new guys. We've been over them a billion times. But you're 14 games in. You played some really, really tough competition. You've lost leads against Creighton. You lost leads against Arizona. You lost leads against Purdue. You had second half leads against all three of these quality teams. And this has been a problem for the Tide. Closing games. It's a problem for the Tide right now. So do we want to say, how do you want to look at the Vanderbilt win? Do you want to say, yay, Alabama learned its lesson and took, a 3% step forward, took a 5% step forward because they actually closed the game against Vanderbilt. They didn't end up losing the lead. They didn't lose the lead like they did with Purdue and Arizona and Creighton. Or do you want to say that Vanderbilt's the worst bleeping team in the net in the SEC, and there should be no reason to be they shouldn't have been in the game. They should not have been involved in the game. You got to give Vanderbilt a lot of credit. Jerry Stackhouse, I think, is a great coach. I think Stackhouse might not be the best recruiter, but I think he's a hell of a good coach. Just disappointing. Disappointing for me to see what happened. You take the 78-75 win. You say, whew, everybody's happy. You're coming back from Nashville with the victory. And I guess there's some element that's like, okay, a win in Memorial is a win, but just didn't play well. Didn't play smart. Turned the ball over like 15, 16 times. Turned the ball over a bunch of times. And so all that being said, Crimson Tide plays their home opener, their SEC home opener against South Carolina tomorrow. Tomorrow, we'll be there in Coleman Coliseum right there for BamaCentral.com. You can follow us right there, BamaCentral.com, at BamaCentral on the X machine, at Alabama Crimson Tide on Sports Illustrated, on Facebook, everywhere, wherever you got. We're going to have all your coverage of Alabama and South Carolina tomorrow in Coleman Coliseum. I'm going to encourage you guys, please make some plans. Get out there. The attendance has been bad. Like not bad as in, Joe wants everything 15,000, and if it's not 15,000, it's bad. No, it has been bad. I mean, it has been bad this year. Now, granted, I recognize the only marquee home game that you had was Clemson. I recognize that, and I give you some grace there. But come on, SEC play is starting. Time to get with the program. This team, look, you want them to get to where they want to be. You want to be a part of the team. You want to be that sixth man. You want to affect the game. South Carolina was picked to be the last team in the conference this year. They beat Mississippi State this past week, and I think they believe in themselves. I think they have a good plan, and they're going to bring a good plan into Coleman Coliseum. Alabama's going to have to play a good game defensively and going to have to play efficiently on offense. South Carolina's going to play a very slow style. So it's going to be who can impose their will. Who can impose their will at 6 o'clock in Coleman Coliseum on Tuesday? Will it be Alabama moving to 2-0? Look, you should be beating South Carolina. You want to get to where you want to go? I'm going to choose to write off, or not write off, but I'm going to choose to not be upset about the non-conference play. I'm going to choose to not take the losses to Purdue, Arizona, Creighton, not take the losses to Ohio State and Clemson. I'm not going to take them to heart. I'm going to not necessarily ignore them, but I'm not going to allow them to make me upset. What I will allow to get me upset is a home loss to South Carolina, is losing some of these SEC games that you shouldn't be losing to. Look, I know Kentucky, really, really good. Auburn going into Arkansas, really, really good. Tennessee, really, really good. Those three teams have kind of separated themselves in the league right now. Do I think Alabama can get into that class? Sure, I do. But you got to find it on the defensive side of the floor. You got to find it in the blue collar points. You got to get the tip balls. You've got to fight for rebounds. You've got to get second chance points. And right now, I'm just not seeing that mental intangible with this team. And I don't know if it's an issue with two of your three best players are transfers. I mean, Mark Sears, I think Mark is a great player, gets into the lane. He's playing at an SEC Player of the Year level right now. But is Mark a leader? Is he a vocal leader? I don't know that. So Aaron Estrada, are you going to be the next leader? Or Grant Nelson, are you going to be the next leader? You think about two guys who came in from different programs this year. Look, when I came into a new company, when you go into a new company, what do you do? When you come to a new team, what do you do? My first thought is I want to fit in, not fit out. I don't want to disrupt the flow. Now, I do want my talents to be shown, but I don't want to, I don't want to rock the boat by saying anything, by saying, hey, guys, we're not playing hard enough. Hey, guys, we're not writing enough. Hey, guys, we're not putting out enough content. Like, I don't want to rock the boat. And so I can understand that with Grant Nelson and Aaron Estrada as well. Somebody's got to grab this bull by the horns. Coach Nate Oates talking today that Aaron Estrada dominated the blue-collar points in practice today. Maybe Aaron Estrada is taking the bull by the horns. Maybe this is his. Maybe he's grasping it. The last couple of games, he's had some good games, but you need, I think, more internal player leadership to be committed to the little things, committed to the winning. The offense is fun. The offense is great. You can play offense with this team. You can roll the offensive tape out with this team, and we'd watch it all day long. But the defense is where the improvement has to happen, and you've got to be committed to making winning plays down the stretch. So get in Coleman Coliseum tomorrow night, Tuesday, 6 p.m. Get in Coleman Coliseum, or you're going to be on my crap list. You're going to be on my bad list. I'm going to write every single citizen's name down that isn't in Coleman Coliseum tomorrow night, and we're going to spend an entire show reading them off one by one by one by one. Bill Smith, John Smith, Mark Johnson. I'm just kidding. I got two more topics for you. Actually, I'm gonna scrap one. I'll save one for the for tomorrow because it'll still be evergreen. Let's finish with what happened at the end of the Falcons and Saints game yesterday. All right, I know it's not Alabama related. I know, and you guys all know that I'm a Chicago Bears fan. I will go ahead and own it. The Bears are terrible. Played like poo yesterday against the Packers. Congratulations to your Packers. Blech. All right, but the funniest thing happened yesterday in the Falcons and Saints game. At the end of the game, the Saints are on the goal line up by, 30? They were about a lot. It was the game was over. It was like a minute 15, and they're in a victory formation. And instead of kneeling it out, they hand the ball off to Jamal Williams, and he slams it in for a touchdown. Arthur Smith, who's already been fired, by the way, runs out after the game and says, bleep you, that was, and Dennis Allen, the Saints coach, is like, I'm sorry, we didn't call that. What happened was just hilarious. Jameis Winston, in the game for the Saints to finish out, basically decided on his own, we're going to get Jamal Williams a touchdown, and we're going to stick it to your Atlanta Falcons. Okay, so I didn't really see this live. I just kind of started to see some of the reactions, and my thoughts were, Arthur Smith, why are you so upset? Why are you so upset? Go stop the play. It's football. Stop the play. And then somebody told me, Joe, they lined up from a victory formation and ran a real play. So they fake kneeled it just to put up an extra touchdown on the Falcons. And look, I don't like the Falcons. I never have. I don't love or hate the Saints. They're fine. I just think this is absolutely hilarious. What an utter bleep you to your division rival. And Jameis Winston couldn't understand why it was a problem. That was the other funny part. Jameis Winston couldn't understand after the game why it was a problem. One of the reporters was in his face basically saying, why did you do that? He's like, we felt like it was the right thing to do. Why shouldn't we have done that? We wanted to get Jamal Williams a touchdown. He deserves it for our team. And there's certainly a good part of you. There's certainly fun to get a feel-good guy a touchdown, but this ain't damn Make-A-Wish. I'm sorry. This isn't. If you want to get Jamal Williams a touchdown, line up in a real formation. Don't line up in the victory formation and make the Falcons think that you're ending the game only to ram it right down their throats for an extra touchdown. Absolutely hilarious from Jameis Winston, going rogue on his coach and getting Dennis Allen in trouble and probably getting Arthur Smith fired. Just a hilarious moment yesterday in the NFL. We want to wish Derrick Henry a great career with the Tennessee Titans. Derrick Henry walked off yesterday, the all-time Alabama leader in rushing yards. In the NFL that year, that is. Derrick Henry passing Shaun Alexander. So when you look at Alabama players rushing yards in the NFL, now it is Derrick Henry 1, Shaun Alexander 2. And so the king is now the king of Alabama rushing yards in the NFL. We want to say congratulations to you, Derrick Henry. Whatever you're going to do the rest of your career. It seemed yesterday at the end of the Titans game that Derrick Henry was basically signing off from Nashville. I know that the two sides, they're probably going to talk about, extensions, but probably Derrick Henry. If I'm Derrick Henry, I'm going to look for a contender to cash in my last 2 or 3 seasons and try to get myself a Super Bowl ring as Tennessee transitions away from Derrick Henry. But congratulations, he does become Alabama's leader in all-time NFL rushing yards yesterday, topping the great Shaun Alexander. Guys, it's been a blast. It's been a lot of fun hanging out with you today. It's been 50 minutes of fun. We talked about the transfer portal. We talked about players coming and going. We talked about where some of the players are going. We talked about parents of some of the players. We talked about recruiting with Daniel Hill and Zay Mincy as well. Alabama and Vanderbilt basketball. Goodness gracious, get your butt to Coleman Coliseum tomorrow. Get your butt to Coleman Coliseum tomorrow and help the Tide get to 2-0 against South Carolina. Look, you get a raucous crowd in Coleman, you never know. South Carolina might fold, and it might be a blowout. That would be very, very useful for Nate Oates and them boys. All right, so that's going to do it for the day. Please follow us at BamaCentral.com, at BamaCentral on X, at Alabama Crimson Tide on Sports Illustrated on Facebook, at BamaCentral SI on Instagram. I am Joe Gaither. This is the Joe Gaither Show. We're a proud part of the BamaCentral Broadcasting Network, along with our friends Blue Collar Unplugged, Blake Byler, Matthew Gibson, and Jacob Pickle. They're going to talk way more Alabama basketball than I did today. They're going to give you a lot more numbers and a lot more depth to the basketball conversation. Proud part of the BamaCentral Broadcasting Network with them. Make sure you subscribe to their show as well. We'll be out for the day. I'll be back tomorrow. We will talk about the College Football National Championship game. We'll talk more Alabama, South Carolina, and much, much more on the program. Follow me at Joe Gaither 6 wherever you like on social media, Instagram, Snapchat, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, every social media, TikTok as well, at Joe Gaither 6. For you guys, the listener, the viewer, I love you so much. I appreciate you so much. Oh, last thing, just to throw in, Caleb Downs got baptized this past week. And I really want to just say congratulations, Caleb Downs. I don't want to influence anybody from a religious standpoint, but for me, I will celebrate that and say, Caleb Downs, great decision for you, young man. And I wish you great success as you continue on that journey. So for everybody at Bama Central, you guys, the listener, the viewer, I love you so much. I'll be back tomorrow with another edition of the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central and BamaCentral.com.